Now, let's begin. The October rain hammered against the windows of Derek Sears's modest two-story home in Virginia Beach, but inside, the warmth of family drowned out the storm. His daughters, 8-year-old Clara and 6-year-old Jean, were sprawled on the living room floor, engaged in an intense battle of competitive coloring. His wife Megan sat beside him on the couch, her head resting on his shoulder as they half-watched a cooking show neither cared about. "Daddy, tell Clara, she can't use purple for the ocean," Jean complained, holding up her coloring book. Derek grinned. "The ocean can be whatever color you want it to be, sweetheart." "See?" Clara stuck her tongue out at her sister. "Girls, be nice." Megan chided gently, though her smile betrayed her amusement. She squeezed Derek's hand. "Your mom called earlier. Wants to know if we're coming for Thanksgiving." "We should," Derek said. "The girls would love it." What he didn't say was that these moments had become more precious since he'd left active duty with SEAL Team 8 months ago. 15 years of deployments, of missing birthdays and anniversaries, of coming home to daughters who'd grown inches in his absence. He'd promised Megan this time would be different. He'd taken a consulting position with a defense contractor, desk work, steady hours, home every night. The doorbell rang. Derek tensed instinctively, old habits surfacing. It was past 9 p.m., and they weren't expecting anyone. Megan felt him stiffen and pulled away, concern flickering across her face. "Probably just a delivery," she said, but her voice held uncertainty. Derek moved to the window first, peering through the blinds. A black SUV sat in the driveway, engine running. A man in an expensive suit stood at the door, alone, hands visible and empty. Behind him, Derek could make out at least 2 more figures in the vehicle. "Stay here," he told Megan quietly. He opened the door with the chain still attached. "Can I help you?" The man's smile was practiced and cold. "Derek Sears? My name is Lloyd Charles. I'm an attorney. I'm here about Arthur Greenwood." Derek's jaw tightened at his father-in-law's name. Arthur Greenwood, Megan's father, a man Derek had met exactly twice. The first time was at their wedding, where Arthur had shown up drunk and left early. The second was 5 years ago, when he'd appeared at their door asking for money, spinning some story about a business opportunity gone wrong. "What about him? May I come in? This is sensitive." Derek studied the man for a long moment, then shook his head. "Say what you need to say." Lloyd Charles's smile faded. "Very well. Mr. Greenwood recently provided testimony in a federal case against Sergio Blanchard and his organization. As part of his cooperation agreement, he's been relocated through witness protection. However, there are complications. The organization is quite extensive, and there's concern about potential retaliation against family members." Derek's blood ran cold. "What kind of testimony?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss details, but Mr. Blanchard's organization is involved in various criminal enterprises across multiple countries. Mr. Greenwood worked as a financial consultant for them before. My father-in-law worked for a cartel." Derek's voice was dangerously quiet. "I wouldn't use that terminology, but yes, essentially." He came forward when he realized the scope of their operations. "The FBI is grateful for his cooperation." "Where is he?" "I can't disclose that information. What I can tell you is that the FBI recommends you take certain precautions. Perhaps consider relocating temporarily, or..." Derek's laugh was bitter. "Relocating. Arthur gets witness protection, disappears, and we're supposed to just pack up our lives." "Mr. Sears, I understand your frustration, but..." "No, you don't." Derek's hands gripped the door frame. "Tell me something. Did Arthur ask about his daughter? His granddaughters?" Lloyd Charles shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Greenwood expressed concern for his family's safety, but he didn't ask to see them. Didn't ask how they were doing. Derek shook his head. "Of course not. That would require actually giving a damn about someone other than himself. I'm simply here to relay information and offer resources. The FBI has agents who can discuss security measures with you." "When's the trial?" "It concluded yesterday. Mr. Blanchard was sentenced to 40 years. However, his organization remains operational, and there's intelligence suggesting they're motivated to send a message." Derek's SEAL training kicked in automatically. He was already calculating exits, defensive positions, vulnerability points. How motivated? I really think you should speak with. How motivated? Derek repeated, his voice hard. Lloyd Charles met his eyes for the first time, and Derek saw genuine concern there. Very. The FBI is doing everything they can, but I'd recommend heightened vigilance. Keep your doors locked. Vary your routines. Report anything suspicious. After the lawyer left, Derek stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching the SUV disappear into the rain. When he turned back, Megan was standing in the hallway, her face pale. I heard, she said quietly. My father. He really did again, didn't he? Derek pulled her close. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to let anything happen to you or the girls. Derek, if these people are as dangerous as that man said. I've dealt with dangerous people before, Meg. We'll be smart about this. He kissed her forehead, forcing confidence into his voice he didn't entirely feel. I'll call some people tomorrow. Get us set up with better security. Maybe take the girls out of school for a few days. Make it a family trip somewhere. Megan nodded against his chest, but he could feel her trembling. I can't believe he'd put us in danger like this. After everything. Let's not talk about it in front of the girls, Derek said softly. We'll figure it out. But as they returned to the living room, where Clara and Jean were now arguing over markers, Derek's mind was already working. He'd need to call his former team leader, Travis Head. Travis had connections everywhere, could pull strings that Derek no longer could as a civilian. They need a safe house, maybe a rotation of secure locations until the heat died down. The next morning, Derek made the calls. Travis Head was direct as always. How serious are we talking? His former commander asked. Federal case against a major cartel. Father-in-law was the star witness. Blanchard got 40 years. Travis whistled low. Sergio Blanchard? Jesus, Derek. That's not small time. His organization runs operations in 6 countries. They're not known for forgiveness. I know. I'm thinking we disappear for a while. I can work remotely, pull the girls from school temporarily, or you let me make some calls. I can get FBI protection assigned to your house. Maybe even get you into the WIT SEC pipeline if it comes to that. Derek hesitated. Witness protection would mean leaving everything behind. His home, his career, his identity. Let me think about it. In the meantime, I'm upgrading security here. Cameras, better locks, the works. Do it fast, Travis said. And Derek, watch your 6. These guys don't play around. Derek spent the day transforming his home into a fortress. He installed motion sensor lights around the perimeter, upgraded every lock, and set up a camera system that fed to his phone. He moved weapons from his gun safe to strategic locations throughout the house, accessible to him, hidden from the girls. Megan watched him work with growing anxiety. This is scaring me, she admitted that evening as Derek tested the new alarm system. Good, Derek said, then softened his tone. I mean, it's smart to be scared. Fear keeps you alert. But I promise you, we're going to be okay. That night, he barely slept. Every sound outside had him reaching for the Glock he'd placed in the nightstand. The rain had stopped, leaving the neighborhood eerily quiet. Around 3 a.m., his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your family looks happy in those pictures. Enjoy it while it lasts. Derek bolted upright, instantly awake. He checked the security cameras on his phone. Nothing. He moved through the house, clearing each room, checking windows and doors. Everything was secure. He returned to the bedroom, where Megan stirred. What's wrong? She murmured sleepily. Nothing. Just checking the system. He couldn't tell her about the text. Not yet. He screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Travis. Along with a message, it's starting. Travis's response came quickly. FBI field office, first thing tomorrow. I'm making calls now. Derek didn't go back to sleep. He sat in the kitchen, Glock on the table beside a cup of coffee he didn't drink, watching the cameras and waiting for dawn. The FBI meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. Derek called Megan's sister, Vera Maldonado, who lived 20 minutes away, and asked if she could watch the girls for the day. Is everything okay? Vera asked, concern evident in her voice. Just some things we need to handle, Derek said vaguely. I'll explain later. They dropped Clara and Jean at Vera's house, both girls excited for an unexpected playdate with their cousins. Derek hugged them tight before leaving, breathing in the scent of Clara's strawberry shampoo and Jean's morning cereal breath. "Love you, Daddy," Jean said, squirming in his grip. "Love you too, baby girl. Both of you." As he drove to the FBI field office with Megan, his phone rang. Unknown number. "Derek Sears," he answered, heavy breathing on the other end. Then a voice, heavily accented. "Arthur Greenwood cost us a lot of money. A lot of respect. You understand?" Derek's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "I understand my father-in-law made his own choices. That has nothing to do with my family. In our world, family is everything. You Americans, you don't understand this. You think you can betray us and run away. No. Consequences? No. His family pays what he owes." "Listen to me very carefully," Derek said, his voice cold. "I'm a former Navy SEAL with 15 years of combat experience. If you come near my family, I will make you regret." The line went dead. Megan was staring at him, her face ashen. "Derek, call Vera," he said urgently. "Tell her to lock all the doors and don't open them for anyone. We're turning around." But even as he made a U-turn, tires screeching, Derek knew they were already too late. His phone rang again, this time Vera's number. He answered to the sound of screaming and gunfire. "Derek, oh my God, there are men with guns. They're breaking in." Vera's voice dissolved into terror. "Lock yourself in the bathroom with the girls," Derek shouted, pressing the accelerator to the floor. "I'm 10 minutes away. They're in the house." There, the connection cut off. Derek broke every traffic law getting to Vera's neighborhood. 3 blocks away, he saw the smoke. 2 blocks, he heard sirens. 1 block, and he saw the flames consuming Vera's house. Police cars were already there, firefighters working to contain the blaze. Derek abandoned his car in the middle of the street and ran toward the house, but strong hands grabbed him. "Sir, you can't go in there. My daughters are in there." Derek fought against the officer's grip, raw terror, giving him strength. "Clara, Jean." More hands grabbed him. It took 4 officers to hold him back as the house burned. Megan arrived moments later, and her scream when she saw the flames was a sound Derek would hear in his nightmares for the rest of his life. The fire department brought out 6 bodies. Vera and her 3 children, Megan, and Derek's 2 daughters. They'd been shot first. The medical examiner would later confirm. The fire was meant to destroy evidence, but hadn't burned hot enough, fast enough. Derek identified the bodies in a clinical haze, his mind refusing to accept what his eyes were seeing. Clara's small hand curled around her favorite toy. Jean's blonde hair, singed but still recognizable. Megan's wedding ring, warped by heat. He didn't cry, didn't scream. He simply stood in the morgue, staring at what remained of his entire world, and felt something fundamental break inside him. The rage came later, cold and absolute. The FBI agent assigned to the case was a woman named Regina Cortez, mid-40s, with tired eyes that had seen too much. She found Derek at the hotel, where he'd checked in after refusing to return to his empty house. "Mr. Sears, I'm so sorry for your loss," she began. Derek stared at her, his voice flat. "Tell me you have them. We're working on it. We've identified the shooters from security footage, 3 members of Blanchard's organization. They're already out of the country, but we're coordinating with international." "How long?" She hesitated. "These things take time. With jurisdiction issues, extradition treaties." "How long?" "Months. Maybe years." "Mr. Sears, I understand your frustration, but we have protocols. We'll get justice for your family. I promise you that." Derek laughed, a hollow sound. "Justice? You put my father-in-law in witness protection, let him disappear, and left my family as targets. Now you're telling me justice might take years. We couldn't have known. Get out. Mr. Sears. Get out." His voice was deadly quiet. After she left, Derek sat in the dark hotel room and made a call. Travis Head answered on the first ring. "Derek. Jesus, I heard. I'm so sorry. I need to come back." Silence on the other end. Then, "You know what you're asking?" "I need to come back," Derek repeated. "And I need you to greenlight something." "Derek, the teams don't do revenge missions." "We're not." 340 members, Derek interrupted. "That's how big Blanchard's organization is, according to FBI files. spread across 6 countries: Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Guatemala, Honduras, and sleeper cells here in the States. How did you never mind? Derek, even if I wanted to help, I can't authorize. You're not authorizing anything. This is off book. Black. Deep black. But I need resources. I need my team. And I need you to look the other way. Travis was quiet for a long time. Derek could almost hear him thinking, weighing duty against loyalty, regulations against justice. Finally, how many operators do you need? Derek felt something ignite in his chest. 23. The original team. That's practically the entire squad. It needs to be biblical, Travis. Every single person who had a hand in this. Every person who gave an order, pulled a trigger, drove a car, opened a door. All 340 names on that list. Another long pause. Then Travis's voice came back, hard as steel. You'll have unlimited resources. Unlimited time. Whatever you need. But Derek, this conversation never happened. If you get caught, I can't protect you. I don't need protection. I need payback. One more thing, Travis said. This goes dark, it stays dark. No publicity, no glory, no closure. Just blood and smoke. You good with that? Derek thought of Clara's small hand. Jean's laugh. Megan's smile. I'm good with that. Then consider yourself reactivated, unofficially. I'll start making calls. How soon can you be at the compound? 24 hours. Make it 12. We've got work to do. Derek ended the call and pulled out his laptop. He'd been compiling intelligence since leaving the morgue. Names, locations, financial records, everything the FBI had and more. He called in favors from former teammates working in intelligence, hacked databases he probably shouldn't have access to, and cross-referenced everything. The organization chart was extensive. Sergio Blanchard sat at the top, untouchable in his federal prison cell. But below him were lieutenants, captains, foot soldiers, associates, and facilitators. Men and women who made the machine run. Men and women who'd signed off on killing his family. Derek had already started at the bottom of the list, working his way up. 3 names were crossed off, the shooters who'd actually pulled the triggers. They'd been found dead in a Cartel safe house in Juarez, their bodies mutilated in ways that sent a message. Derek had driven there himself the night after the funerals, broken into the house, and spent 3 hours making them pay for what they'd done. It hadn't brought him peace. He hadn't expected it to, but it was a start. Now he had 337 names left to cross off, and a team of the most dangerous operators on the planet ready to help him do it. Derek shut the laptop and packed his bag. He had one more stop to make before heading to the compound. The FBI had finally provided him with Arthur Greenwood's location, a detail Regina Cortez probably shouldn't have shared, but grief did strange things to people's judgment. Arthur was in a WIT SEC facility in Montana, living under a new name, probably already comfortable in his new life while his daughter and granddaughters were in the ground. Derek would deal with him later, after he'd finished with everyone else. Arthur deserved to live long enough to see what his cowardice had cost, what his betrayal had unleashed. And when the time came, when every other name was crossed off the list, Derek would make sure Arthur Greenwood understood exactly what he'd done. But first, there's work to do. The compound was designated Site 7, a black operations facility in North Carolina that officially didn't exist. Derek arrived to find Travis Head waiting outside, along with 22 other men, operators Derek had served with, bled with, trusted with his life. They didn't offer condolences, didn't shake hands or make small talk. They simply nodded as Derek walked past, a silent acknowledgement of what was about to happen. Inside, Travis had set up a full tactical operations center. 3 walls covered in screens showing maps, intelligence reports, and surveillance footage. The 4th wall was Derek's list. 340 photographs arranged in a pyramid, with Sergio Blanchard's picture at the top. We've been busy, Travis said. Pulled in every favor we're owed. CIA, NSA, DEA, even some foreign intelligence services who want Blanchard's network dismantled. Officially, they can't help. Unofficially, he gestured to the screens. We've got real-time surveillance on 80% of the targets, financial tracking on another 15%. The last 5% are ghosts, but we'll find them. Derek studied the wall. Rules of engagement. Whatever you decide. This is your op, Derek. We're just here to help. One of the operators, a stocky man named Glenn Bryant, spoke up. We divided the list into tiers. Top tier is leadership, people who give orders. Second tier is enforcers and operators, people who carry out orders. Third tier is support, money launderers, suppliers, corrupt officials. How do you want to play it? Derek was quiet for a long moment, staring at the photographs. We start at the bottom. The support structure. Cut off their money, their weapons, their protection. Then we work up to the enforcers. By the time we reach leadership, they should be isolated, vulnerable, and terrified. That's going to take months. Another operator, Omar Schultz, noted. Maybe longer. I've got time, Derek said simply. Travis pulled up a file on the main screen. Then we start here. Edwin Moran, money launderer operating out of Panama City. He runs 17 shell companies that handle cash flow for the organization. Takes in dirty money, spits out clean investments. The FBI's been watching him for years, but can't get enough evidence for prosecution. Where is he now? His penthouse apartment. Alone except for 2 bodyguards. We've got building schematics, security codes, and his daily routine. Derek studied the information. When can we move? Wheels up in 6 hours. But, Derek, Travis hesitated. I need to know you're clear-headed about this. This isn't combat. This is execution. If you're doing this just for revenge. It's not just revenge, Derek interrupted. The FBI said they're working on it. Months, maybe years for justice. How many other families will these people destroy in that time? How many more bodies will stack up while the Bureau fills out paperwork? He turned to face the room. Blanchard's organization moves 20 tons of drugs into this country every month. They murder, they traffic, they corrupt. The FBI can't touch most of them because of jurisdiction and politics and red tape. But we can. We spent 15 years being pointed at targets and told to eliminate threats. Well, I'm pointing you at the biggest threat any of us have ever faced, and I'm asking you to help me eliminate it. The room was silent. Then Glenn Bryant stood. I'm in. One by one. The others stood as well, until all 22 operators were on their feet. Travis nodded slowly. Then let's get to work. Glenn, Omar, you're with Derek on the Panama job. John Quinn, Leonard Watkins, I need you running communications and intelligence. The rest of you, pick your targets from the list and start planning. We've got 340 pieces of trash to take out. I want to start burning it all down tonight. 6 hours later, Derek was on a private plane heading for Panama with Glenn and Omar. They'd studied Moran's file during the flight. A 52-year-old accountant who'd turned his legitimate tax preparation business into a criminal enterprise. He had a wife and 3 kids back in the States who probably had no idea what Daddy really did for a living. Derek felt nothing as he read about Moran's family. His capacity for mercy had died in the flames of Vera's house. They landed at a private airstrip outside Panama City just after midnight. A local contact, one of Travis's assets, provided weapons, vehicles, and updated intelligence. Moran was at home, his bodyguard stationed in the apartment's living room while he worked late in his office. Standard breach and clear? Glenn asked as they geared up. Derek shook his head. I want him to know what's happening. Why it's happening. They entered the building through the parking garage, bypassing security with codes provided by NSA intercepts. The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent, each man checking weapons and equipment with practiced efficiency. At the apartment door, Derek used a keycard cloner to bypass the electronic lock. They entered in a fluid tactical stack, weapons up and scanning. The first bodyguard was seated on the couch, watching television. He never saw them coming. Omar's suppressed round caught him in the head, and he slumped over without a sound. The second bodyguard was in the kitchen, making coffee. Glenn handled him with a knife, quick and silent. Moran's office door was closed, light visible underneath. Derek could hear classical music playing softly. He tested the handle, unlocked. Edwin Moran looked up from his computer as Derek entered, confusion crossing his face. Who are you? How did you? Derek raised his weapon. My name is Derek Sears. 2 weeks ago, Sergio Blanchard's organization murdered my wife and 2 daughters. You laundered the money that paid for it. Moran's eyes went wide with terror. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just an accountant. You run 17 shell companies. Last year, you processed $340 million in cartel funds. You took your cut and helped them avoid prosecution. Derek's voice was eerily calm. That money funded operations, bought weapons, paid hitmen. You're not just an accountant. You're part of the machine. Please, I have a family. So did I. The suppressed shot was barely louder than the classical music. Derek stood over Moran's body for a long moment, waiting for something, guilt, satisfaction, closure. Nothing came. He felt as empty as he had in the morgue. He pulled out a marker and drew a small cross on Moran's forehead. The mark he decided would be his signature. Let the cartel know someone was hunting them systematically. They wiped down surfaces, took Moran's computer and files, and left the way they'd come. By the time the bodies were discovered, they'd be back in North Carolina, planning the next operation. On the flight home, Omar asked, "How did that feel?" Derek stared out the window at the darkness below. Like one down, 339 to go. Back at Site 7, Travis had the next targets ready. Over the following weeks, they worked through the third tier with ruthless efficiency. A weapon supplier in Caracas found floating in the harbor with a cross on his forehead. A corrupt border official in Laredo discovered in his home, cross marking his death. A logistics coordinator in Medellin who disappeared, his office left with only a cross painted on the wall in his blood. The cartel began to notice. Internal communications, intercepted by NSA assets, showed growing panic. Someone was hunting them, and they couldn't figure out who or why. Sergio Blanchard, in his prison cell, demanded answers. His lieutenants scrambled to provide security, to identify the threat, but Derek and his team were ghosts. They struck without warning, left no witnesses, and vanished. By the end of the first month, 37 names were crossed off Derek's list. By the end of the second month, it was 68. The third tier was collapsing. Money stopped flowing. Weapon shipments were intercepted or destroyed. Corrupt officials resigned or fled. The organization's support structure was crumbling. That's when Derek decided it was time to move to the second tier, the enforcers. These men were different. They were soldiers, trained and dangerous. They traveled in groups, maintained heavy security, and were increasingly paranoid after watching their support network systematically destroyed. The first enforcer on Derek's list was a man named Jeremy Cooper, a 35-year-old former Mexican Special Forces operator who'd gone rogue and joined the cartel. He was responsible for training new recruits and leading enforcement actions. Intel suggested he'd personally participated in at least 40 murders. Cooper was currently in Guatemala City, holed up in a fortified compound with a dozen other enforcers. Hitting him would require a full team assault. Derek gathered all 22 operators for the briefing. This is our first major action. Until now, we've been picking off isolated targets. Cooper and his men are dug in and ready for a fight. We going hard, we going fast, and we don't leave until everyone in that compound is dead. The assault was planned for 0300 hours on a moonless night. They approached the compound in 3 teams. Alpha would breach the main entrance, Bravo would hit the back, and Charlie would secure the perimeter and prevent escape. Derek led Alpha team, with Glenn and Omar flanking him. They'd practiced the breach dozens of times on a mock-up built at Site 7. Everyone knew their positions, their fields of fire, their fallback points. At exactly 0300, Derek triggered the shaped charge that blew the front gate off its hinges. Alpha team poured through the smoke, night vision goggles turning the darkness into green-tinted daylight. The first resistance came from 2 sentries positioned near the entrance. Derek dropped them both with controlled pairs to the chest, barely breaking stride. Inside the main building, it was chaos. Cartel enforcers were scrambling for weapons, some still half asleep. Derek and his team moved through them like reapers, each shot precise and lethal. Cooper was in his second-floor bedroom, already armed and firing down the stairs. His rounds sparked off the walls around Derek, but the former SEAL had faced worse than one man with a rifle. Derek tossed a flashbang up the stairs, waited for the detonation, then moved. Cooper was blind and deaf from the blast, staggering backward. Derek put 2 rounds in his chest and 1 in his head, then painted the cross on the wall behind him. The entire assault lasted 11 minutes. 13 cartel enforcers dead, 0 casualties on Derek's team. As they extracted, Derek heard Glenn on the radio. Command, Alpha Actual. Compound secured. All targets eliminated. Travis's voice came back. Copy, Alpha. Good work. Come home. But Derek wasn't going home. Not for a long time. Over the next 4 months, they systematically dismantled the second tier. Enforcers fell in Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and Colombia. Some went down fighting. Some tried to run. None of them succeeded. Derek's cross became feared throughout the cartel world. They called him La Cruz, the Cross. Legends grew about him. Whispers of a ghost who couldn't be killed, who appeared from nowhere and left only death in his wake. Sergio Blanchard, still in federal prison, tried to protect his remaining people. He called in favors, offered rewards for information, even hired mercenaries to provide additional security. It didn't matter. Derek and his team were too good, too motivated, and too well-resourced. By the 6-month mark, Derek had crossed off 193 names. That's when the cartel decided to fight back. Derek was in his quarters at Site 7, studying the next set of targets, when the alarm blared. Travis burst through the door seconds later. We got incoming. Sensors picked up multiple vehicles approaching from the access road. Heavy weapons signatures. Derek grabbed his rifle. How many? At least 30. Looks like they tracked us somehow. Travis was already moving, barking orders into his radio. All teams, defensive positions. This is not a drill. The attack came hard and fast. Cartel gunmen, some of them former military, laid down withering fire on Site 7's perimeter. RPGs streaked through the night, explosions rocking the compound. But they made a critical mistake. They brought a gang fight to a place where the world's most elite operators were dug in and ready. Derek positioned himself on the compound's eastern wall, calmly picking off targets as they advanced. Beside him, John Quinn operated a machine gun with devastating efficiency. They're trying to flank around the south side, Quinn reported. Let them, Derek said. Omar's got claymores set up there. Seconds later, the distinctive boom of claymore mines proved him right. The flanking force was shredded. The battle lasted 23 minutes. When it was over, 32 cartel gunmen were dead or dying. Site 7 had suffered minor damage and 0 casualties. Derek walked among the bodies, checking faces against his mental database. He recognized several of them, mid-level enforcers he'd been planning to hit in the coming weeks. They came to us, he said to Travis, who was surveying the damage. Saved us the trip. Travis shook his head in amazement. They really don't understand who they're dealing with, do they? They're about to. Derek pulled out his phone and took a picture of the carnage, bodies marked with his signature cross. He sent it anonymously to a contact at a major Mexican news outlet with a simple message. Tell Blanchard I'm coming for everyone he loves. Tell him a cross is coming. The story broke the next day. International news picked it up within hours. Mystery vigilante wages war on cartel, read the headlines. The FBI issued statements denying involvement. The cartel issued threats. Derek didn't care. He was already planning his next move. With most of the second tier eliminated, it was time to go after the top, Blanchard's lieutenants, the men who actually ran the organization. There were 5 of them spread across different countries. Each commanded sections of the cartel's operations. Each was heavily protected and extremely paranoid. Derek decided to hit them simultaneously. 5 teams, 5 targets, 1 coordinated strike. The planning took 3 weeks. They coordinated with intelligence assets across multiple agencies, mapped out security, studied routines, identified weaknesses. It would be the largest operation yet. On the designated night, Derek personally led the team going after the number 2 lieutenant, a man named Lon Monroe who operated out of a fortified ranch in northern Mexico. Monroe was responsible for the cartel's enforcement arm. He'd given the order to kill Derek's family. The ranch was a fortress. High walls, armed guards, censors dogs. Monroe lived like a king there, surrounded by luxury stolen from human suffering. Derek's team approached from the desert, moving slow and silent. They'd hiked 15 miles through rough terrain to avoid detection. Now, they lay in position, waiting for the signal. At exactly midnight, Derek's radio crackled. All teams, green light. I say again, green light. Derek keyed his mic. Alpha team, execute. They breached simultaneously from 4 sides, using shaped charges to blow through walls rather than going through gates. The guards never had a chance to coordinate a defense. Derek moved through the ranch like a force of nature. Every room cleared, every threat eliminated. He found Monroe in a panic room, cowering behind a reinforced door. The shaped charge that blew the door off its hinges left Monroe stunned and bleeding. Derek hauled him out of the debris by his collar. Please, Monroe gasped. I'll give you money. Information. Whatever you want. I want my family back, Derek said quietly. Can you give me that? Monroe's eyes went wide with recognition. You're La Cruz. Oh God, you're him. You gave the order to kill them. My wife. My daughters. You signed off on it. It was business. Blanchard said Greenwood needed to learn. Derek's fist shut him up. Tell me where Blanchard keeps his personal records. The ones the FBI doesn't know about. I don't know what you're. Derek pressed his weapon against Monroe's knee and fired. The scream was cut short when Derek grabbed his throat. Tell me. Monroe did. Between sobs and whimpers, he gave up everything. Safe houses, hidden accounts, backup operations, contingency plans. Derek recorded it all. Then he marked Monroe with the cross and left him bleeding out in his panic room. Reports came in from the other teams. All 5 lieutenants were down. The cartel's leadership was decimated. Back at Site 7, Travis pulled Derek aside. You know what this means, right? We've essentially destroyed a multi-billion-dollar criminal organization in 6 months. That's unprecedented. We're not done, Derek said, studying his list. 43 names remained. Derek, most of what's left are low-level associates and Blanchard himself. The organization is finished. You've won. I haven't won until every single name is crossed off. Travis sighed. What about Arthur Greenwood? Derek's jaw tightened. I save him for last. He gets to see what his testimony cost. What his cowardice unleashed. Then I'll deal with him. The remaining 42 names, associates, lawyers, corrupt officials, fell over the next month. Some fled when they heard La Cruz was coming. It didn't help. Derek's team tracked them down no matter where they ran. The last name before Arthur Greenwood was a banker in the Cayman Islands who'd helped hide cartel assets. Derek made the trip personally, alone this time. The banker died quickly, cross-marked on his office wall. 339 down. Wanna go? Derek flew to Montana, to the small town where Arthur Greenwood was living his new life under witness protection. He'd grown a beard, dyed his hair, took a different name. He worked at a hardware store, lived in a modest apartment, probably thought he was safe. Derek watched him for 3 days, studying his routine. Arthur looked older than Derek remembered, worn down by guilt or fear or both. On the 4th night, Derek let himself into Arthur's apartment. The old man was asleep on his couch, television playing softly. Derek sat in the chair across from him and waited. Arthur woke with a start 20 minutes later, his hand reaching for a gun that wasn't there. He froze when he saw Derek sitting calmly in the darkness. "Hello, Arthur," Derek said. The old man's face went pale. "Derek, Jesus Christ, you found me. Did you think I wouldn't? I heard about what you've been doing. The cartel, all those people, they're calling you a monster. Those people murder my family. Your daughter, your granddaughters, because you testified and ran. I didn't have a choice. Blanchard would have killed me if I didn't cooperate. So you let them kill Megan and Clara and Jean instead." Derek's voice was dead calm. "You saved yourself and left us to die." Arthur's hands were shaking. "I thought. The FBI said they'd protect you all. I thought you'd be safe. The FBI lied. Or they failed. Either way, my family paid the price for your decisions." Derek stood, pulling his weapon. 339 people are dead because of you, Arthur. The entire Blanchard organization wiped out. All because you testified and ran. You're going to kill me. I should. I've spent 6 months killing everyone even remotely connected to what happened to my family. You're the most connected of all. Arthur closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. God, Derek, I'm so sorry. I think about them every day. About what I cost you. Derek stood there for a long moment, weapon aimed, finger on the trigger. It would be so easy. One squeeze, and Arthur would join the others. The list would be complete. But as he looked at the pathetic old man crying in front of him, Derek felt something shift. Arthur Greenwood wasn't worth a bullet. He wasn't worth the energy it would take to pull the trigger. He was already in his own prison, living with the knowledge of what he'd done. Derek lowered his weapon. You're going to live, Arthur. You're going to live with what you did. Every morning, you're going to wake up and remember that Megan and Clara and Jean are dead because you were a coward. And you're going to know that I could have killed you and chose not to because you're not worth a bullet. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. If you ever try to contact me, if you ever come near anything connected to my family's memory, I'll reconsider. Understand? Arthur nodded, unable to speak. Derek left the apartment and drove back to the airport. The list was complete. 340 names, all crossed off. He'd done what he set out to do. Dismantled an entire criminal empire. Made them pay for what they'd taken from him. But as he boarded the plane back to North Carolina, Derek felt the same emptiness he'd felt in the morgue. The revenge hadn't brought his family back. The justice hadn't filled the hole in his chest. Nothing ever would. At Site 7, Travis was waiting with a bottle of bourbon and 2 glasses. It's done, he asked. It's done. They drank in silence for a while. Finally, Travis spoke. What now? Derek stared at his empty glass. Now I figure out how to live with what I've become. You're a hero, Derek. You took down one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the world. I'm a killer, Travis. I executed 339 people. Some of them deserved it. Some of them were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'll never know if what I did was justice or just murder dressed up as righteousness. Your family doesn't come back no matter how many people I kill. Derek stood, setting down his glass. I need some time, away from all this. Travis nodded. Take all the time you need. When you're ready to come back, there's always a place for you here. Derek left Site 7 that night and drove to Virginia Beach. To the house he hadn't been able to enter since the massacre. Inside, it was exactly as they'd left it. Coloring books on the floor. Megan's coffee mug in the sink. Clara's backpack by the door. Derek sank to his knees in the living room and finally, after 6 months of cold rage and mechanical violence, he cried. Great, racking sobs that shook his entire body. He cried for Megan, who'd never doubted him. For Clara, who'd wanted to be an astronaut. For Jean, who'd believed purple oceans were possible. He cried for the man he'd been before that October night, before the lawyer at the door, before the flames. And when the tears finally stopped, when there was nothing left inside him but exhausted emptiness, Derek made himself a promise. He would live. He would honor their memory by being the kind of man they would have been proud of. Not La Cruz, the avenging ghost who haunted cartel nightmares. Not the killer who'd crossed off 340 names. Just Derek Sears. Father. Husband. Man who'd loved and lost, and somehow found the strength to keep going. It wouldn't be easy. Some days, it would feel impossible. But he would do it, because that's what Megan would have wanted. What Clara and Jean deserved. The revenge was over. The list was complete. Now came the harder part, learning to live again. Derek stood, wiping his eyes, and walked to the mantel where family photos still stood. He picked up his favorite, all 5 of them at the beach last summer, sun-bright and smiling. I did what I had to do, he said quietly to their frozen faces. I made them all pay. Every single one. Now I need to figure out how to be me again. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. For you. He set the photo down gently and took one last look around the house. Then he walked out, closing the door behind him. The sun was rising over Virginia Beach, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Derek drove toward it, toward whatever came next, carrying 340 crosses and the memory of purple oceans. The war was over. Time to find peace.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.